15 of 17 SaaS unicorns in India were created in the past 4 years.
Go and innovate, solve problems uniquely or solve unique problems. Ad-supported models are here to stay and are going to grow. How do I reach as many audience beyond my own D2C app? The first line of code that we wrote in 2008 was on AWS.
The fact that you are so ahead of the curve really helps us continue to stay on our game as well. We're seeing a global trend of increased personalization for customers. Largest players are moving away from building and more towards buying. Hi, this is Marc Aldrich. I'm with GM with AWS for the Media Entertainment segment. And I'm happy to be joined by Amagi, CRO, co-founder Srinivasan. Srini, it's wonderful to see you again. This is a production that we have with SaaS SCIONS with AWS India in collaboration with Business Insider India. And we're really thrilled to have you today having a conversation with us. Such a great partner, Amagi. And I have a bunch of questions for you, but I'm hoping we could just have a conversation about the business, Srini.
Thank you so much for having me. Again, great to see you, Mark, again. And looking forward to the conversation.
Beautiful. Well, let me just start by saying, in India, it has emerged as a SaaS factory of the world, frankly. India recently overtook the UK and is now the world's third largest ecosystem after the US and China. 15 of 17 SaaS unicorns in India were created in the past 4 years, with another 8 to 12 likely by the end of 23. What advice would you give the nearly 1,000 plus SaaS companies and their founders as they look to grow the next set of unicorns in the years to come?
Absolutely. I think one, cloud and PLG, product-led growth, and SaaS business models, I think have leveled the playing field for Indian companies to compete in the global space. I think we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity as Indian companies to be able to go and compete truly at a global level. You don't need huge capital. You don't need massive local presence or even deep relationships to break into the SaaS world. I think what you need is essentially great talent and a deep understanding of customer problems that you can solve uniquely. So I think this is a huge opportunity for entrepreneurs to win big. My advice would be, don't think of India as purely, cheap labor, right? Where you're the low-cost alternative to higher priced competitors in the market, but actually, go and innovate, solve problems uniquely or solve unique problems, and and leverage the power of business models, interesting business models that do not require massive investment upfront. Leverage the deep pool of talent available, given the number of unicorns, to your point, Mark, in India, the amount of talent that's available in terms of product development, in terms of building businesses out, scaling businesses, and go conquer the world.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, I love it. It's very exciting. We both operate in the streaming space. The streaming space is seeing a ton of interest from industry giants. Whether it's Disney, Warner Brothers Discovery, any list of large media companies. Some considering ad monetized and supported subscription charges, and some relying entirely on ad revenues. You guys have really made a big impact in this space. How do you see the space evolving, and do you see any new trends happening as well beyond FAST, for example?
Absolutely, Mark. Excellent question. It's a deep and profound question, if you will, and love your thoughts as well. I think, as we all know, the cross-subsidization from cable to D2C is over, right? Given that it's declining, cable is declining, it's no longer subsidizing all your D2C losses, if you will, as much. And of course, the street is now prefers profitability over growth, over subscriber growth, if you will. Given that, I think the pure play SWOT models are much, much more difficult to sustain in this whole profitability-focused environment. We're seeing a couple of things. One, as you pointed out, advertising ad-supported models are here to stay and are going to grow. We have seen many of the companies, large public companies, their results where their ARPU for an ad-supported tier is much higher than a pure subscription tier, right? So these mixed models certainly are giving a much better ROI for content owners. Two, I think the biggest change that you're going to see in the industry, at least from where we sit, is that content from being exclusive, where all of these D2C businesses used to have exclusive content on their D2C platforms. I think that's changing to become much more non-exclusive. Every content owner is now looking to say, hey, how do I get my content as ubiquitous as possible? How do I reach as many audience beyond my own D2C app? So I think this whole non-exclusive distribution, that means you're going to have content from company A being available with company B, right? And vice versa in their own apps. You're going to see a mixed model. You're going to see a mix of subscription plus advertising, subscription plus transaction VOD coming back. That's going to happen. You're going to see all of these mixed models that are going to come in. You're going to see everyone willing to add third-party content into their own D2C and beyond their own content. And again, as we talked about, having third-party distribution for their content as well.
So that's interesting. Yeah, those everything you just talked about, very interesting. And I know that you guys are on the cutting edge on FAST, and you're probably starting to see some of these trends sooner. Like what I'm seeing is that big push from obviously linear, where the advertising spend is in linear. It's I think about a $30 billion business. How that transitions to digital. Digital is the growth engine. It has 35% growth year on year. But how do those customers that have both, have a view across that entire landscape to make sure that there's monetization happening as the linear business starts to continue to slow down and moves over to digital? And that's where we see a lot of opportunity that's happening. And I'm excited about it. I mean, coming out of Cannes, Lyon in France, just I guess that was probably a month and a half, 2 months ago. I couldn't get over how many great conversations we had with customers about that transition and some of the tech that we have to be able to enable that. So I think collectively, there's a tremendous opportunity for both Amagi and AWS in this space. So kind of a corollary to that for me is, we've seen a flurry of partnerships in the streaming space. For example, Amagi partnering with Aceto and Think Analytics. Also, Amagi partnering with Imagine. What do you think is fueling? Is that third party? Some of the things you talked about in the trend, is that what's fueling this consolidation? And do you expect that trend to continue?
Well, absolutely, Mark. 100%. Primarily because as cost is being looked at much more closely today by most of the networks and content partners. They are looking at saying, hey, how do I unify my operations between my broadcast operations and my digital streaming operations, as you're saying, right? As the transition happens, how do I have one single supply chain, one single technology chain for me to run both these businesses and not see them as two different silos, duplicating my efforts and my costs in both of these. And two, people are looking at traditionally the hardware industry, the broadcast industry has been super, super fragmented. You had thousands of individual vendors providing point solutions. As people consolidate their technology on the cloud, you're going to see fewer unified solutions, combined, umbrella platforms that are coming up. And I think partnership is a great way for us to be able to provide one single unified platform, a full solution, a full end-to-end glass-to-glass solution for our customers. And I think this is only going to accelerate. You're going to see fewer vendors in the space. Rather than point solutions, you can see larger solutions. And suddenly there is consolidation at the customer level as well. We have seen networks buying each other, content partners buying each other. We just recently saw, as late as last month, Lionsgate buying, Entertainment One, for instance, right? So you're going to see more and more of that as well.
Agreed. And so do you feel happy about some of those relationships that you've kicked off pretty recently? You think that they're getting good traction on customer facing, so the customers are receptive to that group
Absolutely.
of
We actually have now common customer wins across these partnerships where customers are seeing value. They have one throat to choke where there is a combined solution. It works seamlessly out of the box. You're not spending massive dollars with third-party consulting companies trying to integrate them. You have a pre-integrated solution that's coming out. I think there is value in that, Mark, 100%.
Me too. I agree. So, Amagi is one of the few SaaS companies in India that was born around when cloud became mainstream, right? We can argue when cloud became mainstream, a lot of early adopters. Can you highlight your technology transition over the years and how adoption of cloud has fueled the innovation Amagi's been able to deliver?
Excellent question again, Mark. We keep saying this, we keep joking around, right? The first line of code that we wrote in 2008 was on AWS, right? As a company. So pretty much, we call ourselves cloud born, not just cloud native, right? So pretty much, built around the cloud. So that has actually really, really helped us, experiment fast, fail fast, try a lot of different things. So provides the flexibility to be able to innovate much, much, much faster overall. From a technology transition, obviously, when we started on the cloud, it was more, here is this one monolithic piece, even on the cloud that we're actually running. From that to moving to a containerized approach, moving to a microservices based approach, being able to leverage much more of an API-led model. So being able to meter at an API level, meter at a target developers as opposed to just targeting a full application suite, being able to integrate seamlessly, being able to leverage marketplaces, including AWS Marketplace, to be able to drive some of the partnerships as we talked about. I think we have tried to transition and actually grow along with the cloud as new innovations happen on the cloud. A lot of it driven by AWS. And it's amazing. I mean, now with AI, obviously happening, the amount of experimentation and innovation that you can drive, we're having this whole software-driven world as opposed to, depending on capital infrastructure, hardware infrastructure for you to be able to scale and grow.
Agreed. And you guys have been an amazing partner to push us as well, to tell us, what other things that we need to be looking at. I think the fact that you are so ahead of the curve really helps us continue to stay on our game as well. And speaking of that, building high-performing teams, it remains a critical aspect for SaaS companies like Amagi. Considering your global scale today, what mental model do you have at Amagi around culture and talent acquisition as you look to support customers in this digital transformation globally?
Awesome question, Mark. If we were to, as we look at, we have scaled from about a couple of years back, about 200 odd people to close to now 1,000 people, almost 5 times in the last couple of years. It's been an explosive growth, both in terms of revenues, customers, as well as our people. We started with primarily the talent pool being in India. Now we have a much more larger global talent pool. We are present across, 12 plus countries now, where we have local presence in these markets. So as we looked at, expanding and scaling both in India as well as globally, a few things that we have always looked at from a mental model perspective, framework perspective, right? We want people that have infinite curiosity on, hey, why things work or why things don't, how things are and how things can be, right? So curiosity is something that we actually look at people, and that we believe, drives willingness to accept that they don't know, willingness to be vulnerable, saying, hey, I don't know, I'm willing to accept that I don't know, not just to me, but in public. That means that, hey, I'm willing to learn, right? So learnability has been so curiosity drives a lot of that. 2, ownership mentality, saying, hey, it's not, it's about me owning the problem, owning whatever that is needed to drive this, and not just, say, this is my part. I mean, as a smaller entrepreneurial organization, it's critical that everybody has this entrepreneurship as, mentality, has this ownership mentality to solve problems and not just come up with problems. And of course, we also looked at specific expertise, given that we are a vertical SaaS company. We focus on media and entertainment exclusively. So understanding customer problems, how customers operate today, as we, build out our global talent pool. So building that deep domain expertise for solving customer problems has been important. Obviously, cloud, from a technology perspective, having cloud expertise. And I think thanks to the great work that AWS is doing, I think there's much deeper talent pool available on the cloud side now than it was, 10 years back when we were scaling. I think these are some of the key areas that we look at. Obviously, we go through an extensive interviewing exercise. We take less than 1% of people that actually apply in terms of, so it's a very painful process both for us and for the person. But I think if we find the right person that actually has both the culture fit as well as the knowledge about expertise fit, it's great for the person and for the company for us to grow together.
I love that. I didn't realize that. So it's pretty rare, 1%. I would tell you that I feel like we're both beneficiaries. I know that I have been in terms of building out the media and entertainment practice for AWS. To be the fact that there's so much mergers and acquisitions happening within the industry globally, there's a tremendous amount of consolidation, but that leads to talent ending up on the street and available. And being able to get people that actually have lived it and have worked on these workflows and understand how the tech works, what the problems are, how we can leverage the cloud technology to be able to take advantage of it. I feel like a tremendous beneficiary based on what's happening in the industry today. And it's an ability, working for an Amagi or an AWS, to give back to the industry and drive, that innovation forward in a place where it's positive. So I see the same thing. So that goes back to leads me to think about, okay, customer side, right? You made a really good point. Making sure that you're hiring and solving customer challenges, what they need from us and what expertise they need is so important. How have you seen the needs and concerns of Amagi's customers change in the past few years? I mean, we're seeing a global trend of increased personalization for customers, certainly. I'm assuming you're seeing the same, but I would love to know, what do you think the content creators and owners are focused on these days? And are we as a partner, as a team, available to deliver that value that they're looking for us to give to them?
Excellent question, Mark. As you know extremely well, you have tremendous experience and expertise in the industry. As you know extremely well, I mean, M&D space is going through a massive transformation overall, right?
Yeah.
There is transformation at the front end where the consumers are switching from linear to streaming, right? Are switching from, in some cases, from a subscription model to an advertising model, right? So there is transformation at the front end in terms of consumer behavior changing. And two, there is transformation at the back end, given the need for scaling on streaming side, given the need for cost optimization in terms of movement from traditional on-prem hardware to cloud, right? So there are these twin transformations that are happening both on the front end and the back end. So it's a time of massive change for the industry. Given the business models are shifting, a lot of content partners that we actually work with, our customers that we work with, they have been studios, for instance, content studios that have never run a D2C business, never been. They've always licensed content. It was a very simple B2B SaaS model, or even including the TV networks, right? All they were in the business of, hey, let me take this content, give it to an MVPD, to a cable operator, or if I'm a content owner, I'll just license this content or syndicate this content to a TV network. They're all trying in this new model, saying, hey, whether it's fast, free ad-supported streaming TV, whether it's using social media, whether it's D2C app that I'm running, I now suddenly need to understand my consumers. I need to be a D2C business. I need to build a brand. So I think at some level, a lot of these that were primarily didn't have a need for a strong technology expertise are starting to see the power of technology that they can actually, that the technology can bring to their business. So from our customer perspective, one, they've never had technology teams. They had IT teams, if you will, that are actually running. Now they're starting to build technology teams that actually, whether it's consumer analytics, whether it's personalization, as you talked about, whether it's being able to understand some of these, data from consumer analytics that is actually coming in to drive the right technology decisions or content decisions upstream. AI is starting to play a bigger role because, as Netflix has proven and, many of the other content companies are starting to see, content is starting to travel well internationally, right? That means that I can take my content, even if it's produced in Korea, in India, in the US, in Brazil, and actually can take it to international markets with limited localization and be able to monetize much, much better. So there are newer monetization models available with, free ad-supported streaming TV or, other potential merchandise models, in content monetization models that are available now. I can monetize it differently. So given this, so some of the things that we are starting to work actively with customers, one, we're starting to, we've now built a consulting arm where we're actually starting to help them, show them what are the different monetization models that are available, given the fast-changing nature of the business. So there is a lot more upstream business level consulting that we are starting to do, more than just technology consulting. Look at what's happening and how does it impact your business, And then hence, what's the implication for your technology architecture? So going upstream with our customers is starting to happen. Two, for our content owners, it's been about how do you, it's now glut of data available. It's no longer about data. It's about insights from the data. So how do you go beyond data to actually look at insights, and how do you actually leverage some of those consumer insights to be able to drive your business is becoming. And three, given the ubiquitous nature of distribution that is happening, two things that is actually the impact is at two levels. One, how do I reach all of these distribution points? So now we have built a content marketplace where they can actually come in and actually find, as content owner, find new distribution aggregation endpoints to reach new audience. That wasn't need, because I was always local, it didn't matter. Now suddenly I can go internationally. And three, even if I distribute, it's no longer about distribution, it's about discovery within that endpoint, right? Now I'm going to be one of hundreds, if not thousands, of those content points that are available. How do I get discovered? So how do I actually unify my marketing activity that I'm doing with the distribution activity that I'm doing with the content production? How do I actually see that as a part of a larger whole rather than as three distinct siloed departments that are actually working? So these are some of the big changes that we are seeing, Mark.
So that, I understand all that. And here's another thing, and you mentioned this, customers are moving away from the growth of subscribers and more to profitability. What I'm seeing is some of the largest players are moving away from building and more towards buying, right? So instead of having, I need 300 engineers to go build this direct-to-consumer offer, I'm more willing to outsource it to make sure that I'm focused on what my core business is versus, what it isn't, this core versus context. And I think in the last 3 to 5 years, we've seen that seem to accelerate across the.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. I mean, in fact, I was having a conversation with one of the CTOs of the largest networks. And what this profitability drive is making them is making them think, am I a media company or am I a technology company? What is the unique value that I bring? Am I going to be building software that actually serves one customer that is me? Or do I want to work with somebody that's actually serving 100 such customers and can actually drive innovation much faster? Absolutely. This whole drive to profitability is making them ask tougher questions internally as to, hey, who am I? What is my core competency, and what should I be doing? Where should I be investing my money?
Totally agree. And so for us, I look at that and I say, okay, so we have a lot of technology that we're able to deliver. However, in terms of a finished product, we need partners. And so the relationship that we have with Amagi, for example, is so important to us, because at the end of the delivery of value, you have to have something the customer can actually buy if they're not going to build it themselves. And so over the last few years, we've been very focused on that partner relationship, so that collectively we could deliver something that customers can actually just buy and turn on and make it work with minimal, engineering.
Absolutely. And same with us as well, Mark. I mean, so we look at it saying, hey, is this something that we can actually directly take from AWS, so that we are not building stuff that is, commodity, right? Yep. So that, AWS can innovate faster, can actually, because they're working with, tons of more customers than us. So it's, very much like, as much as we tell about our customers, we are also looking at saying, hey, what is our core competency, and, where can we innovate, and focus on areas where we can innovate rather than actually replicating what you can bring to the table.
Right. Well, listen, this has been a great conversation, Srini. I know we've met many times in the past, but it's a pleasure to see you again on this broadcast. And I have to say, the relationship between the two companies, I really appreciate and don't take for granted. I know sometimes in the marketplace, there's common customers, but I think by and large, we work very effectively, our teams together. And I just really appreciate the leadership that you have, and the fact that you continuously push us to be better at what we're doing as well.
Absolutely. Same here, Mark. I very much appreciate the relationship. The AWS is our largest partner, by far, in any dimension, if you will. And we value the relationship and the maturity that you bring to the conversations. So I appreciate that. And I think, the teams, both AWS and Amagi, across product engineering, sales, marketing, I think starting to work much, much more closely. I'm glad to see the success of the partnership.
Excellent. Well, Thank you for taking the time today, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in person real soon.